Hey, welcome to Reminding Yourself. This is the podcast where we're going to remind ourselves that we have value. Everybody has a value. Everybody is worth something. And as men, especially, we can't lose sight of that because I think the world needs us. Just like we need women, we all need everybody. And to talk about sometimes some of the conflicts that come about because of our differences, and how we can deal with these and how to not be people that are living life depressed and feeling victims of a situation. We're going to bring a good friend, Dio, who has been through some stuff. He has a lot of knowledge. Anytime I talk to him, I get a lot of insights into maybe things I haven't thought about. So Dio, how are you, man?
Very good, Fermin. How's everything?
Everything's good. Well, as good as it can be, as you know, in my struggle online,
Hmm.
just been dealing with some family issues, especially with children. And, any insight that I get, I also, because I can have this conversation with you privately, but I think having it in this forum allows other men that have been in your situation, my situation, to not have to look further. It's like, hey, this is a common thing, or maybe this is something that happens a lot. So we don't feel like it's me. It's like, oh no, this is something that happens and we can get over this.
Hmm.
And I know we were talking about some of the issues with relationships. Can you tell us a little bit about what you know?
Yeah. Well, first of all, before we start, Jen, just a disclaimer, because a lot of people did share the stories. So a lot of this presentation is based on the stories. So we cannot share names. So we're just gonna be talking this like friends, like having a formal conversation, addressing different issues. And just share this and probably help other fellow men, and it's more like a conversation like friends, but also addressing some of the issues. Everyone is at different levels. Sometimes your spouse, your wife might be borderline narcissistic. Sometimes it could be a narcissist, and sometimes it could be also the man being codependent. Because we are taught at a really early age to protect everyone, and then your job is to make sure everyone is safe and please everyone, and then without knowing, if you don't have check and balances on yourself, then you can become codependent, and then that also can affect your marriage. So it's not only the narcissist or borderline narcissist, but also the man not knowing their value and becoming codependent. And also this is also going to help with women that don't understand men. I think this is critical to understand. Men and women are different, and we react very different. So that's the conversation that we're going to have today, and then share a little bit of statistics about. We're going to touch bases on, like, if you are a single parent, single father, or you're going into divorce, or if you're still in marriage, how can you improve your current situation with your family, your spouse, and your children by identifying these issues. And obviously we recommend, like, if you need counseling, obviously we're not counselors. That's another part of the disclaimer. We're not professionals. It's just an informal conversation. We're more like, I feel it more like a service, a public service to our fellow men, based on the comments and the suggestions and everything that we got. So based on that, we're going to do it. And like I said, we're going to do it in the third person. With that, let's start the podcast. I can't hear you, Fermin.
Sorry, I had it on mute. So then, can you, from your opinion, what do you think? Because I'm just learning about narcissism and narcissism. I just haven't been in touch with those terms growing up. Like, what is that? Like, what's how would that entail, and how does that apply? Because I know a lot of men get that label. So
Mhm.
it's common in women as well. Like, what is it?
Yeah, it is. Just like there's narcissist men, there's narcissist women. It goes both ways. Narcissist women is their reaction is really similar to narcissistic men. So, but today we're going to focus, it's on men's health. So we're going to focus on our narcissist women. So narcissist women, on the dating stage, when you start dating a woman, they love bomb you like there's no tomorrow, and you feel like you're the perfect match more than a normal relationship. And sometimes the men don't identify that, and then they feel in love, and then they say, whoa, this is the love of my life, this is great, this is what I was looking for. A normal relation, a girl that loves you, it's going to open little by little, not at the beginning like love bombing you. That's one of the first red flags. That doesn't mean that the woman is a narcissist or borderline narcissist, but it's something to pay attention, just in case. And then once the relationship settles, then little by little, the manipulation tactics start, why are you going out with your friends? Why we're going with your family and we should be just hanging out with my family. And then she starts crying and using all this manipulation tactics. A woman that really loves you accepts your family and your friends. So that's the first thing to change. If when you were dating, she was okay, but once your marriage, once you're together or living together, she's not okay. That's another red flag. And then from there, a little by little, she wants to change you. You start losing yourself. You become a shadow of yourself. You're no longer yourself. You lose perspective in different ways. You become unmasculated. And then the devaluation stage becomes she starts evaluating you, making negative comments against your persona, and then also just being not only the evaluation but also not paying attention to the relationship. You're no longer the center of the relationship. So a lot of men, when they don't identify that, they go to different stages and then they become depressed, and a lot of issues come with that. So I think learning those things, at early age, and even if you're in a relationship with it's borderline narcissistic, where it's just not, because narcissism is it's a personality disorder that cannot be cured, unfortunately. If you have a spouse that is been clinical, based on the research that I did and look into this, is that it's a personality disorder that once it's clinically proven and diagnosed, it's not curable. Actually, gets worse with time. But if it's a borderline, it's a different story. The person doesn't have a personality disorder. It's more like a grandiose, ego that can be worked with counseling. But that's the other thing too. When a person is narcissist and has this personality disorder, they have this grandiose personality where they think everyone needs to serve him, and then their children become weapons. So in order to manipulate their children, if their children use if drinking when they're teenagers, and that's going to help them take them in control, she won't care if they become addicted to alcohol, if that's a venue for her to control them and stay in their power. So that's when the manipulation starts. And also, just cutting all the ties and just highlighting one side of the family. So normal relationship encourages that, because it is really healthy for the children to have both sides of the family, because their circle of family is way much more bigger and extensive. So that allows the child to learn at an early age how behaviors do act, how to interact with certain individuals, and learn to read people, if they're good people or people that have not good intentions. So with time, they learn that, because there's different personalities. When the woman is or the man is narcissist and just includes only her family, there's a big possibility that the rest of the family is narcissist. So that really affects the children because it does not let them, read the people. They become a little bit naive and they're in a bubble, and they're very easy to be manipulated. So meaning when they go to the real life, it's really easy to induce them to drugs, to get manipulated, to to get certain preferences that they probably will not do it. It's just because they don't know how to deal with pressure, because they're so used to being manipulated that they are dictated to do, versus when they're in a healthy relationship, they develop their own character and they make their own decisions, and it's really difficult to influence them. So that's the other risk for children. So that's based on the research that I did, and then and then talking to professionals like therapists and all that. So, but yeah, this is in a highlight that's really being in a narcissist relationship is. And then the other thing too is that they have flying monkeys, meaning that they will start a campaign. So a narcissist will start a campaign really early age, believe it or not, really early in the relationship. Once you guys are together, because he or she is already planting those seeds to make sure that they discredit you when something goes wrong, because they know that it's going to go wrong. And when it goes wrong, then everyone can say like, oh, look, he's a bad guy. I've been talking to you about him for like years. And the other red flag is that they become the victims of a problem that they created, and everything is your fault. Then the reality in a marriage, it's a 50-50. So they're part of the problem. So when your spouse tells you, well, you're part of the problem. No, honey, you're also part of the problem. It's both of us. So that's what a healthy relationship does. They talk, they have conversations. Or if you're going to therapy and they're asking who's your therapist. So that's manipulation once again, because she wants you to get a therapist that is going to address her issues. And they try to avoid marriage counseling, because then there's a neutral ground. The therapist gets to hear the perspective on both sides, and instead of just one person saying, I'm not at fault. So that's the other tactic. They become the victim.
The therapist, sorry to interrupt, but even before there, because I think once you get to the therapist part, it's because you obviously got into a place that's not a good place, that you feel like you need to resolve it. But for men that maybe haven't done, for example, you've done this research now, but I'm sure if you've been in a situation like this, and you just think it's, you're in a relationship, you're not thinking all these elements. You just, I like this girl, and then I love her, and then it develops. How do you know when you're in this path? Because I've seen sometimes you're just blind, right? Yeah.
Well, exactly what I just described, and I think one of the things as men, as we do, and it's the ways that we raised, man, we've been raised to be tough, which is, there's nothing wrong. That's our role. That's what men's supposed to be doing. But I think also as friends, we need to sometimes talk about these issues, even if we don't want to talk, because it really does help us. And one of the things that I miss, like being in Latin America, which is different here from the US, that in Mexico, people will tell you, for example, in Mexico, it's like, oh, she doesn't look right, just catch up. So in many parts of Latin America, actually, people do talk about this, men talk about this, but here in the US, we have this, personal issue that, we don't want to talk about it. But one of the red flags is definitely, the love bombing, which is not normal on the first stage. It's really fast, because normally that takes time when you're dating, so it's really fast. And then once you're together, those little manipulations about, why are you with your friends? You're always with your friends. And then more time with her family, not equal time to the other side. Or, I don't like certain family members. Yes, but I also don't like some of your family members. So why not with my family too? If I make an effort, you should be making an effort too. So those ones are red flags. One, using the crying to get her way anyway, that's a really big manipulation. That's a red flag. So if you see that early in the relationship, it's something to pay attention. The problem is that when you're not aware of it and you're so in love, you don't pay attention to this. You actually ignore them because you're more focused on the good stuff than the overall picture. And you're not realizing that, and not having these conversations with friends, or your friends not mentioning that, being reserved, really doesn't help, So, I think as men, we need to do the same thing that our fellow men in Latin America do, is like, if you see a friend, it's like, watch out, she looks this, I see this red flag. I'm seeing it from a different perspective from yours. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but, just have an eye to it and make sure it doesn't get to control. And the thing is that, the other manipulation is that you're old fashioned. They will tell you you're old fashioned. You have ideas. No, you have values. And if she doesn't have your values and doesn't share your values, then you shouldn't be in a relationship with that woman, even if it hurts. Because if she doesn't have your same values, eventually it's going to be something, that is not going to work, because it's going to be always her way. So that's really what a narcissist woman does, so just paying attention to those little details.
So what would this fall under narcissism, or, and these are obviously all just opinions, because, of having dealt with this. We don't have a narcissism degree or anything, but based on what you've learned, for example, when they're slowly eating at your brain, for example, if they go, hey, maybe you have a problem. Hey, maybe you're bipolar. Hey, maybe you should see a therapist. Maybe you have PTSD. But with months, weeks, years of just hearing this, where you as a man start believing, yeah, maybe something is wrong with me. And then you start manifesting some of those traits that you really don't have or never had, but because you keep hearing this from a person that you trust and love, you think that they're legit, and there's something wrong with you. Would that be fall under something in the narcissism, or is that another kind of abuse situation?
It is. Based on the research that I did and talking to professional therapists, because I did prepare before our conversation, and one of the things they mentioned, they're really good on projection. So the moment when you're codependent is when a lot of the men go in therapy. This is what one of the therapists, one of my friend therapists told me, that a lot of men go to therapy because their narcissist's wife tells them you're a narcissist. So normally the person that tells you there's something wrong with you or you're a narcissist, they're manipulating you, because they're projecting actually their issues into you, and it's not them, but they're projecting in you, saying that you're the one with the problem, where they're the ones with the problem. And the marriage relationship is no different from like when you have an issue with your buddies. If you have really good friends, you guys will talk about it and then resolve it and then move forward and continue your friendship. When it's not a good friend, they will try to manipulate and the issue never gets resolved. And then you guys will never talk to each other again for the rest of your lives or for a long period of time, if the issue doesn't get resolved. There's this very similar to the narcissistic woman. Everything is your fault, and they're projecting the issues that they're having into you. So that is when they're telling you that, and you ask yourself, and you go to a therapist and they tell you, that's why I really recommend go to a therapist. And if you're unsecure of it, especially because if you're being abused so many years under narcissism and manipulation, you start losing yourself. You become unmasculated, and then you become codependent to the abuse that the narcissist provides. Once you go to the therapist, you learn that you're codependent, and then you start bringing yourself back, and you stick to your plan. This is a commitment. You do your part. If you don't want to do your part, this is not going to work. I'm sorry. Then we need to move on. So, but to answer your question, based on the research and the answer that I got, yes, it is a trait of the narcissist to project their issues into you to try to point you as the person that is at fault when it's really them.
And then do they, and when I say they, if you're dealing with someone like this, do they have feelings? Because I was reading about empathy and things like that. Are they able to feel sorry for what they're doing, or is it something that is just
No.
they don't care?
No, they don't have empathy. So I hate to break it to those ones that they're no longer married and they're dealing with someone that is narcissist. The narcissist never loved you. It was just a game of control. Their main priority is to get supply from devaluating you, abusing you, and also to make sure that you serve them and control you. That was the main point, to change your personality. Your personality is so great. The reason you were targeted by a narcissist is because you are a special person. They envy you. They want to be like you. So that's the reason why. Narcissists, due to their personality disorder, they don't have empathy, unfortunately. And a good example is like if you're in a narcissist relationship, let's say your wife got really sick and was in a hospital for 3 months. You were there by her bed, taking care of the kids, doing everything. And she recovered. 2 years pass and you get a surgery, similar situation. She doesn't want to take care of you. She's upset. She makes complaints. She takes the kids to her family to not deal with it. And she leaves you there, sick to recover by yourself at home. That's a good example of a narcissist. They don't have empathy. It's just about them, their grandiose personality. And I hate to say it, they also do not love their kids. If they can manipulate their kids, find their weak spots to either use drugs, some type of sport, some type of preference, even if that's going to damage the kid, but it's going to help him have control over them, they don't care because it's about supply and control. So, and then if you leave the relationship, the next target is going to be one of your kids. And once that kid, it's done with the abuse and leaves, then it's going to leave the other kid. Even if that kid is the star for that narcissist, it's going to become a problem. So normally narcissists end up living by themselves and they have miserable lives because they don't have empathy. And as the years progress, they become more grunchy and it just becomes very apparent because when they're young, they project like that they're really good people in the public, but in the house and with their husbands, they're not, So, but as the years pass and they get older, the mask comes off, and now they show it to everybody, and that's where the problem starts with them. They normally have very miserable lives, and they end up by themselves. And the kids, and what is worse for them, once the kids found out that they were manipulated. And if they were not narcissists, and if they didn't develop a narcissistic personality because of the abuse, they end up, not in good terms with that mother.
Wow, that's so damaging. It's scary. It's very scary, and I think we have a responsibility to be on the lookout for this if we have kids, and to protect the kids as much as possible. Obviously, they're going to be exposed. But, can't call the police because someone is narcissistic, and I think the court system is not going to even take that as unless you get like a real big, psychological study done and they find something. Most courts are not going to, you can't just go say, hey, she's a narcissistic person. And it's not evidence, basically. It's dangerous. So then once you figure out, okay, this person is not empathetic, they're narcissistic, they abuse me, because I think we got to call it abuse, that little trickle down insults that sometimes they're even made out of jest. I think it's like, oh, look at you. You're so dumb. Oh, look at you. You're an idiot. Oh, man, and I think it starts there and then it starts escalating. And then if you hear this for years, you're dumb, you're an idiot, you don't provide, you're nothing, then eventually you start believing it and it's so hard to leave. But let's say you get past all that and you realize this is what's happening to me. How do you even get out of the situation, where you go, okay, let me get out of here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you need to find, you know, how do I say this? Help, go with a therapist, because most likely you become codependent to the abuse and you don't realize it. So, and then after that, based on the research and the information I got, is that once you get therapy and you become no longer codependent and you know the red flags, the narcissist is going to try to gain you back and do the bomb loving again, but you're going to be more on guard. So it's going to be more difficult for them. And then the other thing too, when that happens, the devaluation and the abuse, you no longer become a focus. Like before in the relationship, when you guys went out, there was always something to do together, and now suddenly it's just with her friends all the time. There's nothing wrong going, either guys, men or women going with their friends, but there's a difference when it becomes a pattern that you don't invest on your relationship, but there you go, you invest more with your friends. And the reality is that once the kids go out and there's no longer friends, the only thing you have is your spouse. And if you're not investing in that on your spouse, it's not a healthy relationship. So I think that you need to get help, and then determine if your spouse is borderline or it's really narcissistic. If it's borderline, you guys need to go to counseling and then work it out through a lot of work. It could be done. And there's a lot of success on that. But when the person has a personality disorder, it's not going to work. So you need to find an exit. Or if you're hanging out for the children until they go to college and they become independent, you can do that too. But you just have to be really careful. Really prepare yourself. Always be on guard. Don't react, because the other thing, narcissists, their supply is on your reaction. So if you react negative or in a good, in any way, that sends them, that gives them a supply, and they strive for that. It's always chaos with them. It's always drama. But the moment you don't react, that is the best thing you can do. And then also, as long as it's not, and if you're in a relationship there with you just hanging out for the kids, then just be that, as long as, she's not cheating or anything, because if she's cheating, then you need to get out of the relationship. Because, if you let her cheat, she's going to do it again. It's kind of like someone had a gun and pointed at you and miss, and then here's some more bullets for you to, see, if you're not going to miss next time. So it's not worth it. So those ones are the situations of that. So you just really need to get help with the therapist. Discover yourself, bring your inner self back again. Remember who you were before dating the woman that abused you, and bring that guy back. That's what you need. Rescue that guy.
Great advice. That's great, because I think we also, we forget sometimes that where we were, and we become something we're not, and then we feel like that's who we are, but that's not who we are. We're just repressed.
Yeah.
And so we're dealing with kids, right? So it's something very close to me, because I haven't found the right approach in my own personal experience to dealing with situations like this, where the other person is constantly being the victimized. They're the victim, no matter what. Like you said, it should be 50-50 at the base case scenario, but it's almost like there's no wrongdoing from the other end, and it's just the victim. But in the middle of this, the kids are being affected, because if it was just a person, you can just go on by your business. But when you have kids, your duty is to protect them and to have a relationship with these kids so they can grow up in a healthy environment, with a mom and a dad, whether they're together or not. But let's say this other person, because of the victim mentality, they don't allow you to have a relationship with the children. They don't, they put these obstacles. for whatever reason, narcissism or
Hmm.
hurt or pain, whatever it may be, how do you even, because I know, and and not going into the court system, because I think the court system, there's a whole nother conversation about how the court operates, and the judge never even meets your kids, and they make decisions that are going to affect their lives without even knowing who these kids are. So they're looking at your paperwork, they're looking at evidence, they're not looking, they really don't are not concerned about the kids, they're concerned about who's going to take care of these properties, where in reality these kids have different needs from a mom and a dad. They you can't have just one or the other. So how do you even go about dealing with a person? So maybe you avoid the court system, or is it like the only way to just to force them into compliance, or is there a way to give them what they want so that they allow you to get what you need, which is that contact with the children, for example?
Oh God, that's a tough situation because I've never been in that. And the only thing I can say is go first with a therapist, because this is one of the talking to people that are expert in this matter that they mentioned, the first thing you can do is go to the therapist. And the reason why is this is what one therapist told me, is that the woman that is narcissist use every trick in the book, and they're conniving. They're going to tell to the therapist that you're bad, and they're going to call on social services and even say horrible things. But the moment you go to therapy, you're protecting yourself too. If you're in that situation, because then your therapist can say, no, wait a minute. I'm providing therapist. This is the situation. This is the diagnosis that I have. And then the narcissist woman is forced to go to either go to family therapy, even if you guys are not go together, just to work out the issues, or definitely you have to go into the court system. Unfortunately, there's no way around. It's just one of those things, because in a normal relationship, you can do that, but unfortunately you're not dealing with the person that is normal. You're going to go to a lot of pain, and a lot of issues, unfortunately. But you just have to prepare yourself, get the help that you need, and be strong, man. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. And then find your support system that is going to protect you, is going to give you good advice, people that you can rely on it. A lot of your friends, you can count on me too. If you ever need to talk, those things make a difference.
I already do. That's why our conversations are so great that I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel almost selfish because I'm for sure, I know I can resolve my issue, especially through the court system. I don't think I have a doubt in my mind, but I feel that my son may be in my position one day if I don't take it upon myself, and maybe it's just a lost cause, but to do something, to make some noise, to say, even if nothing happens, at least, hey, I try to raise my voice towards this issue, because there's some men that are taking their lives. There's men that are unfortunately not here with us, and their kids now are living without a dad because they took their life. Whatever the situation, there's no winning here. There's no one's going to win. And also, I feel like the court system, and the more I learn about this, because that's everyone's advice. It's like, just go to court, get a lawyer. And I'm like, it just sounds so simplistic. It sounds like I'm using the last resort as the first resort. And judges are not psychologists. Judges are impartial, who should be impartial people that are going to look at the evidence and make a decision based on the evidence. When we're talking about an issue that child upbringing is not evidence-based, it's based on that child's need. You have kids that are sick, or maybe they need different kind of help, or they've been there's different. Every kid is going to be a world, and the judge hardly ever said, let's bring the kids, let me see how they are, let me see. They don't take the time to really decide custody based on what's best for the kids. It's based on the evidence. So I believe in this country, if we were to change that a little bit and tweak it, and let custody be suggested or recommended by a psychologist, a therapist that can take some time and look at the kids, see how they interact with the mom, see how they interact with the father, and then make the percentages based on their findings instead of a judge going, how much do you make? Oh yeah, you can't take care of these kids. She's gonna get the custody. Like it's so financially heavy and based on evidence that maybe it's not even evidence. It could be she says that you used to abuse her and hit her. That could be not true from a narcissist. They could literally say that. And even though it may not be evident, you already put that doubt out there that how do you recover from that? So what do you say to someone that's like, I want to use the court system as a last resort. And I know you said, well, the therapy will be number one then, right? To get yourself out of that hole.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you out of that hole, is there any, I guess my question is this, is there any negotiating with a narcissistic person? Is it like a lost cause, or is there any like gleam of hope of like maybe they'll give in to something at all?
Well, based on the research and what experts told me, if it has a borderline narcissist personality, yes, meaning the person doesn't have a personality disorder, is not completely borderline, but it has some of the traits, yes. But if the person is diagnosed a narcissist, it's a personality disorder that unfortunately has no cure. If you're in a situation, it's going to depend to those two things. If your wife or ex-wife has a borderline narcissist personality, it could be work, with therapy, with so many things. But if the person has a narcissist, it is clinically diagnosed as a narcissist. That's a personality disorder. It's not going to work. I hate to say this, but no. So the best thing is to find, and this is what experts tell me, is take care of yourself. That's the number one thing, because most likely you're codependent. You lost yourself. Bring back the real you that you've been suppressed and due to the abuse. Bring that guy back, because you need that guy in your life. Your former self, that inner child, that inner teen, that inner young guy, you need it back because that's your real personality. That's who really you are. And that also going to protect you in a court when she says she's abusive. Like, no, wait a minute, because then your therapist will advocate with you and give you some notes. So you will be protected even in that. And what expert tells me, you need to continue going to the therapist, even if you don't need it, to work, just to protect yourself and become a better person, but also it's going to protect you in court because you're showing that you are working on your issues. So, and you're not the person that they're saying that you are. So what you're showing is that there's fault at two parts. That's one. And then second, get some legal counseling. You don't have to go to a lawyer. There's a lot of nonprofits that provide free legal counseling that is totally confidential. That's another thing too that experts tell me, that you can go in each county, in each part of California. You can find, I can't talk about other states, but this is what experts tells me. In California, there's in each county, there's always nonprofits that can provide free legal counseling and they can help you with that. And then that will determine if you really need a lawyer, because then that will be the last resort. Unfortunately, if you're going to a court battle and all this, you're going to need that. And the other factor too, that they told me that the parent that makes the most money, it's normally the one that is going to end up paying more, so in really rare cases, women makes more money than the man. And in those situations actually benefits the man and because, they're making less money, but traditionally the man makes more money. So that means you're going to end up paying more child support. So what experts told me is that then you have to show by going to therapy, doing the right thing, showing that you're responsible. Then you can advocate in court for more time. So if you advocate for 50%, then that means it's going to depend on the judge, but if you're getting 50 and 50 time, that means you have a good chance that you're going to pay really low child support, or sometimes even none, because you guys are sharing, you have shared custody. So you take care of the kids when they're with you, and then she takes care with her, and then you got to divide the cost. Like if there's uniforms, and the uniforms were $20, each of you give $10, to elevate the cost. Each of you pay your own part. It's all depend on the amount of time of custody you get from the children. But the less time you get, the more you're going to pay in child support, based on your salary. So if you get 25%, of time, that means, pretty good chance that you're going to pay a good, chunk amount of child support. And then towards the end, as the children gets older, then you start paying less child support, because the critical part is when the child, it's still, in elementary age, because they're going to need child care. They're going to need a lot of things. So you're going to end up paying more child support versus when the child is a teenager, and then it really drops when the child turns 16, 17, 18, child support drops. And then after 19, then you're no longer paying child support.
Wow, it sounds like a whole journey. And then when you're dealing with someone narcissistic, I can see how that whole child support system can be a weapon against you as well, because I know that it could be used, if you don't pay, you may get your license suspended and all sorts of penalties, even jail time. So it could really, in the hands of the wrong person in the other end, you got to be really careful. And that's the reason that I think the court system is so skewed towards, not necessarily men, but people that are on the paying end, but mostly men, because you go into the system that you can never get out of now. Once you go into that court system and that judge dictates how your relationship with your kids will be, you're limited by that. Where I believe it's like, well, it used to be where your kids were your kids, you do what's best for them. And the court was like last resort. Okay, she's on drugs and we got to take the kids away from her. Now it's being used as a weapon every time to get as much as possible from the other person. And no one even talks about the kids. No one says, this is what's best for the kids. It's more, I want this. Oh, I'm not going to give you that. It's about I, and never about what do the kids need? And I think the court system doesn't look at what the kids need. They look at your potential to take care of the kids. Not because you can have custody of the kids and feed them ramen noodles every night. No nutrition. They can go to school dirty, and you're still not considered a bad parent. To be a bad parent, you literally have to leave them alone for 3 days without eating. And even then, they're like, "Oh, she made a mistake. Go to some counseling, and then you get them back."
Yeah. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, the court system is designed here. In certain countries, they do an evaluation to the parents, and normally the children go to the parent that is best fit. Regardless if they're a man or woman. So unfortunately, we're not in those countries. So the best thing is just to make those small steps, like taking care of yourself, going to therapy, finding help, talking to friends, bringing your old self back, the real you, and start, doing things for your children as much as you can when you guys are together, and making sure that you, and get some free counseling, explain your case. And then based on that, you're probably going to get a very good picture of what is the next steps if you really need legal. Unfortunately, in some cases, I wouldn't venture in all the cases, but in some cases, that's the only resource that you have to do. And don't get me wrong, there are some shady men, that deserve all of that, and that women need to be protected. I'm totally fine with that. But it also goes on the other side too, as well. There's some really shady women too, as well. So it goes both ways. So it's just, finding the common ground to see which parent is the best parent that will protect their children. And, and what is crazy is that, there is, studies and articles. There's this article, written by Alice Jane, which is a woman. And she's a editor in a website that is like a newspaper that says and this is based on facts and research that says single father households do vastly better than single mothers. And the statistics when I was reading this, it's just crazy. It is a single father. The majority of the single father, their kids end up growing with similar results and outcomes, like if they were with two parents. And their studies show that single mother households have really bad cases. The kid has almost a 70%, based on this article, 70% of failure to success. I mean, not graduating from college, probably not high school, end up working on jobs that don't pay too much, drugs, alcohol, so many issues. So that's what's surprising and no one tells. And the thing is that sometimes a lot of these moments are so strong and they're a minority, but they have a lot of powerful people backing up that the real issues like this that highlight single men don't get highlighted. And even sometimes blocked from the internet, and when you find articles like this that are really based on research, it's like, wow, this should be out there more to open people's eyes in the court, but nothing has been done. So, and the article goes not only in the US, it just talks about the UK and other countries, and the factor, it is the same. So single men tend to do better than single women raising their kids.
Wow.
It's just,
you would never proven. Before that, the statistics that you just read there, I wouldn't think that. We were conditioned to automatically think that wouldn't be true without the data. Just based on opinion and the way that we've been brought up, we think the opposite, right? But it makes absolute sense that a single mother with, let's say, some kids is gonna have to be a tougher mother, meaning that she's gonna have to sacrifice some of that motherly love that kids need in order to keep the discipline as well. That's why I think the balance of the father and the mother is so great, where the mother can really hopefully give these kids the love they need, and the father can give them the guidance and direction. And both of them together make a perfect team to take these kids into adulthood. So those are amazing stats.
Yeah, no, and the thing is that and don't get me wrong, there's some really great single mothers that do an incredible job with the kids, but unfortunately, it's not the majority. It's just based on recent research and facts. That's the reality. And the crazy part is that single women are happier to take men that already have children because they see it as a value and it's going to help them through the life, versus a man taking women with children. It's always, it's a miss and hit. They might find an incredible woman and had an incredible life and have additional children. But unfortunately, there is, for a lot of men, they go even to worse problems, versus single women that find men with children actually end up, in majority of the cases based on this study too, they end up doing really well, with single parents, with single fathers, and if they go into a relationship, versus the other way around. And the other thing that the studies show is that women are more prone to mental health problems than men, and this matters. And it's because men, we're very practical. We don't complicate things. We just see some really simple things. So we don't overthink. We just go straight to the point. We don't focus on the problem. We focus, on the solution. So it's because we're different, men are different. And then in a healthy relationship, the woman should be nurturing the kids from day of birth until the 12th. And once they turn 12, then in a marriage, the wife needs to let the man take the lead, because then that's where the tough love comes, where the parent, yes, loves the kids, but also teaches them reality. For example, if they're going to go to college, a mother will say like, oh yeah, that's super cool. You're going to have all this freedom. You're going to go to the dorm. You're going to do great. Fantastic. That's what the mother says. Then the father will say like, well, here's a good and bad of both things. If you don't have a scholarship, if you don't have a financial aid, this is what will happen. If you stay in the dorm, yes, you're going to have freedom. But if your education costs you $40,000 plus the dorm, when you graduate, you're going to be owning, six figures, like 100 or more than 100. And you're based on your degree. You're not going to make starting 85,000. So you're going to be in debt for more than 10 years versus if you stay at home, there's a lot of great schools here that you could close by, go driving. When you finish your degree, you're going to own only 40,000. Unless you're a doctor or architect that you have to go, it's a different story. But if it's a normal degree and there's local schools that are great, you go here, you're going to end up with that 40,000 less a car payment in 3 to 4 years, you'll be paying your debt loan and then you'll be free and then you'll be productive. So that's what the father will say. And that's the guidance that the kid, male or female, need from their father because it has a different perspective. They need both. Yes, they need the nurturing and all that. But also once they grow up, they need the father to guide them in those things because yes, it loves them, but it tells them the reality. It's not that they're being dramatic. And a narcissist woman will take that as a weapon to say like, oh, you're old fashioned, you're doing this, you're controlling, you want them to do your thing. Like, no, you just tell them the truth. You prepare them for a better future and you're teaching them that choices have consequences. So they better make the right decision in order to have good outcomes. And when they make the wrong decisions, they're going to learn from it. But what you're trying to do is to make sure that they don't go to that path. And that's what the father does because he already went through it and can guide the kids, in this, for example, this scenario. And if he doesn't know, he will find someone that been in that situation and can talk to the kid.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so pretty much is the practicality of men, and we're generalizing men and women, but there's a difference, and I think we can't argue that we think different than men. I think we're a little bit more simple that, oh, this is broken, just let's do this and fix it. Where women may go deeper into why is it broken, which we need both. We need both sides. But in raising the children, the practicality element is better than that dream almost element where, yeah, you like you said, like go to the dorm, they're looking at the experience. Men are looking at, well, the cost, is it really doable rather than we believe in you. Like, I think mothers have that, I believe in you, you can do it, go. And I think fathers are like, yeah, go, but can you really get there? And let's think about this through. And you need both inputs, I think, as a child, so you can see, my mom believes in me and I can do it. My dad tells me good points, like how can I afford it? So now they can ask these questions that are going to help them. So that's an amazing study. So yeah, we'll share it here on the notes.
And I'll provide you the link. And then the article goes into the final words that this lady concludes the article. Says the reason data shows that children in a raised single mother households are so disadvantaged on average is that women get custody even if they're resoundingly not the best option and not the best parent. Until we change that, we will continue to have a single mother problem. To put it more bluntly, when the father is the best option, we need the courts to identify this and award the custody accordingly. Until we start doing that, endless children are going to pay the price they should not be paying.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying about the judge is not a therapist. They're not a psychologist. They are they're lawyers that are judges. They know the law and they interpret the law based on evidence. I believe emotions don't require evidence. Emotions require you dealing with that emotion. And it might not be a rational explanation for some emotions. And if you try to put the law into an irrational feeling, that's a conflict. So someone's going to lose. And it's not going to be the court. So the person that loses usually is the children. And then the parents as well, especially the parents that care and they get kind of into the system that now they're at the mercy of the court. It's almost like you're giving the court custody of your children, saying, "Hey, judge, here's my children. You mediate between us. You tell us what to do." And if you have a person that's a narcissistic person, like I said, that's great on two people that want the best for the kids. When you have a person that it's not about the kids, it's really about how can I win out of this situation. That could be really conflictive.
Yeah, and that's a game of the narcissist. The narcissist doesn't love you. It's about them winning. It's never about co-parenting, working together as a team. It's about how can I win, and it's a constant battle. And that's what a personality disorder has. And once you're out of the picture, it's going to be one of your kids, and when your kid's out of the picture, it's going to be the world. And that's when everyone finds out really the problem with this individual that has that personality disorder. So, so based on the research that I did and the points that I got from experts is like, the number one thing is you need to find help for yourself, to bring your foremost self, because if you're being to this abuse, most likely you're a codependent. That's the bottom line. You're being emasculated. You're a shadow of yourself. Men need to be emasculated in the relationship. That doesn't mean they have to be the macho abusive, but they need to be the man. And there's need to be some guidance, some roles. If a woman tells you you're old fashioned, no, really what they're doing is a tactical issue, pretty much to get their way and make you think that way, and if your values don't straight with me and you cannot co-align, then we cannot have a relationship. I need to find someone that has my same value system, and you're going to find someone that has your same value system. Just the bottom line. So the good thing is that men with age, if you take care of yourself and you're successful, you're actually more valuable. A good woman will value you more than a young man. Because it sees you as security and so many things. So so that's the other thing too. So just find help, and if you're in a situation that you need legal counseling, just go to a local nonprofit where they provide free counseling. Just check on the internet, if either in your county or in a close by county, and then based on that it should give you a pretty clear picture if you're going to need a lawyer or not, so, and then just take care of yourself, hang out with your friends, talk to these issues, and I hope this helps, and like I said, we couldn't disclose any of the names and anything because that's confidential, but we just touched some of the points based on the things that people share with us. And then hopefully this helps other men. And perhaps, if people really like the podcast, we can continue having these conversations about, the well-being of men, which I think is really important, like not being codependent, bringing your former self, making sure you have a successful life, how can you take advantage of your trades, what you have right now, all those things that are beneficial for men.
Man, thank you so much, Dio, and thank you for because it's difficult to get up here and talk about these issues, because it's also like men we're raised to be like, the woman is abusing you, it's like, take it, you're a man, don't worry about that, she's emotional, you take the abuse. And sometimes it comes from generations, from our mothers down to our partners, and so thank you so much for being here. We're going to link that article, and maybe we can link even other in the show notes, like all the resources. Like just click on the link and go to the California State, whatever bars, wherever these nonprofits are. And then you got to do your research, man. Like we have to really do the research. Don't rely on anyone to tell you. Just go look it up, find help. And so thank you so much, Dio. Really appreciate that. And yeah, we're gonna do way more of this, I'm sure, in a bigger way, hopefully.
All right. Okay, and then perhaps we can bring some experts, the real experts, up instead of being a formal conversation. Because a podcast is kind of like having a conversation where you're with your buddies, like having a beer and you're talking about these issues. That's why it's so important to get your supportive friends, because that helps a lot. We don't realize that that's like therapy. So the reason that you were very healthy before the relationship is because you had that group, and you don't have to get like very often. If you guys get once a month or once a quarter, that helps, even if it's once a quarter, because then you can vet a lot of these issues, because everyone is married and has but you should be hanging out with your friends at least once a quarter, just to talk these issues, because it does help. And then find the help that you need and take care of yourself, man. I mean, it's not only good for you, but it's also good for your children. And think about, as the airplane instructions, like before you put the mask of someone to breed or your own children, you have to put it to yourself first. Because if you are, then you are going to be able to help your children. Because if you don't do that, you're not in a position, you're going to lose conscience and you're not going to be able to help your kid. So that's why you need to take care of yourself.
That's the one right there. Yes. Let's put our mask on first and we'll be able to breathe and help other people. So thank you so much, Leo. Appreciate that. And we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, right. I'll send you this article whenever I have a chance, the link. That way you can share it with other members of the podcast.
Okay.
And the audience. Okay.
Sounds super great. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.